Every world has a sound, even the ones that don't exist, be it in movies, in films, or games, or even in media which have no visual representation at all. It seems that there needs to be something more than visuals to make a space seem real. And most of the time, sound is being used to lure you right into that world or space, or even feeling that you're supposed to get when watching, playing, or listening to media. Sound is something abstract, something you can't see, and still it is real and believable, no matter how unrealistic it appears to be, because you can obviously hear it. Some worlds breathe, some hum, some feel like they're made of dust, or metal, or light. Hi, I am Lucas Fretz, video composer and sound designer, and let's get right into making sound for spaces. To create something that feels real, we shouldn't glance over the fact that even with smartphones glued to our hands and screens shouting at our eyes all day, we live in the real world, a world that is constantly adapting to things. Physics, time, and living things do stuff to stuff, and that's a process that should be captured as much as possible, I think. Because that's the part where a story takes place. So, how could we build a world that actually feels real? Since a space or a world is not moving, or at least not that we notice, it should be a no-brainer to use a drone. A drone in music is a note or a chord that is continuously played throughout most of the musical piece. Although something like this is totally fine and works, considering it playing a bit longer, it gets boring pretty fast. There is not much movement in this footage, sure, but it is still a world where a lot of things are happening or happened, which has to be represented somehow. To represent something static with static will most likely result in something boring. So, what can we do about that? Well, the easiest thing to do would be to move around in octaves or introduce some harmony or dissonance with intent to suggest a feeling or a story that happened in this place. So let's try that. You can see here right off the bat that there is a reason why evolving drones and paths like this are often used to create a sort of a background world and a feeling to a story. It already brings more movement and also information into focus that there is something beneath the surface of this visual. Something is happening in the time domain, and I'm already more invested into that place than this one. Now, let's take a closer look into movement. What else is there that can contribute to it? The thing is, in audio, there are practically no limitations to what parameters you can use to alter sounds. Now, how cool is that? Or is it? To have too many options can be overwhelming. That is something any artist learns early on in the process of creating. That's why they limit themselves with the tools they use to make something. Limitation can give you the chance to unlock a specific skill and get so familiar with the tool you're using that you get the feeling that you can create everything with it. That's also, frankly, why sometimes the complete ultimate library of native instruments or any software synth that comes with hundreds of presets sometimes just doesn't work, for me at least. Curating sounds is fun, I guess, but getting the job done is probably not the same as creating something rewarding. But let's go back to the physics and time part of the beginning and think about what that could mean for our sound. Say, for example, a rock. How does it look and how did it get to that state? Maybe water was running into it for thousands of years. Or maybe a trunk of a tree that changes its appearance over time, growing and being exposed to the elements. I am talking deformation and texture. Every object and material has a pretty chaotic and unique texture and appearance, which tells the story of its life. One thing that certainly delivers textures in audio is noise. Noise comes in many colors: white, pink, brown. But as we already learned, static noise alone becomes boring fast. The magic happens when you shape it, distort it, modulate it. Any movement you add turns noise into something alive. Also, samples like crackling, hissing, humming, or maybe sand falling on different surfaces work and tell a bit of a story themselves. Let me show you what I mean in 3 different examples. This is not a real place, more like a corner of my mind. Whenever I step into it, it feels like it is waiting for me to give it shape. Nothing moves at first. It's all just potential, and it is patient. But if I listen enough, I notice small things shifting. The air feels unfinished, as if the place is still deciding what it wants to become. If I listen long enough, small things start shifting. I notice the air feels unfinished, as if the place is still deciding what it wants to become. There's no history carved into the walls, no footprints, no signs of anyone. As I walk deeper, the space seems to watch back, in the way a blank page watches the first stroke of a pen. Everything around me is waiting. It's asking for attention. It wants me to notice the shapes hiding in the nothingness. In the time of making these examples, I realized that what also seems to be important is to still keep it simple. There also needs to be space and time for the imagination to get triggered and to make you actually get invested into that place. Where am I? Is it cold? Am I dreaming? What's going to happen next? I think crossfading and morphing between states, which can also be classified as movement, in this scenario can help to provide that control when you can flip a switch and tickle that brain of a viewer or listener just that bit more. What I have done next to have a neat and handy tool to introduce some chaos in cases as such is making sounds with Alchemy. Alchemy is a pretty cool software synthesizer that comes with Logic and lets you load samples and manipulate them in different ways while also providing other synth engines to make sounds. So I made some sounds with it and sampled the outcome, always the bare bone version with a little bit of movement, and then the version that was massively more complex. To not make a massive library that kills the hard drives, I also only took the notes C1, C2, C3, and C4 for each sound. And when played back in different speeds, this will also automatically help bring some natural movement into the sound, and the outcome will not always be predictable. I programmed a decent sampler instrument that uses these sounds and lets you choose, mix, and manipulate them with a low-pass filter to make these awesome drony pat sounds filled with movement, which I think resulted in a quite unique instrument. I call it the Mad Pat. this was my journey into scoring worlds and spaces with drones, and working on this reminded me what I actually enjoy in creating sounds. There is something rewarding about shaping sound instead of just picking one. If you want to try MatPat and experiment with this kind of approach yourself, there is a link in the description where you will find most of my other stuff as well. If you like this video, consider subscribing and hitting that like button. And if you have any thoughts about this approach, or maybe what you would like to see next, feel free to let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Bye.